Are you hiring? With Indeed, you can post a job in minutes, set up screener questions, then zero in on your short list of qualified candidates using an online dashboard. Get started today at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast.
This is the best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Today is National Senior Citizens Day.
Oh, yeah. Luck extending to the right, and it's intercepted. So prime position for the Colts, and instead a turnover.
How do you think you played tonight?
Not very well, but it was fun. It was a good chance to be out in front of the home crowd.
We saw a little bit of everything from him. We saw the rust in the red zone with a poor decision to throw that interception, but we also saw some vintage Andrew Luck.
They are just trying to figure out exactly whether Urban Meyer and his staff and possibly athletic director Gene Smith handled these allegations. As far as the outcome, I think it's anybody's guess.
So here comes the preseason AP poll. Alabama tops the rankings again, third straight year. Clemson, number 2. Georgia at number 3. Wisconsin, 4th. Ohio State, 5th.
Good Tuesday, everybody. Welcome. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2. As always, we are presented by Progressive Insurance. And all phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here. I think the show started with the staff taking a shot at us. I'm pretty sure about it.
You think so?
Yeah. National Senior Citizen Day, they said.
Oh.
And then they played the oh, yeah, right there. So that
Oh, yeah.
start right away.
I mean, in
right
fairness,
away with a shot.
You guys are pretty close.
No.
Do you guys have like your AARP cards and
I
stuff
do.
yet?
Yeah, I do.
Dude,
yeah.
you're the one that looks oldest out of all of us.
They start
Oh, no, I
sending.
get it, but like I can't pull the receipts the way you guys can.
the-
So
I
I feel
can't
a little
either.
deficient.
The AARP, when they start sending you stuff, you initially throw it away because you don't want to believe you're there.
Yeah.
And then you start to go, oh, they got some pretty good deals.
Yeah, all of a sudden you say, you know what, this ain't going to be all right.
Let me look at those brown loafers one more time.
Maybe this isn't so bad. And then you go to the theater and they suddenly you get senior citizens or you have AARP and you're like, shh, don't say that out loud.
Exactly.
You just kind of slide that
Slide
out
it
a
under
little
the
bit.
table.
That is true. The lengths that we will go to a discount, like I carried my college student ID on me for like 3 years after to try and sneak discounts at movie theaters.
Absolutely,
try and get
man.
those two. Hell yeah, it works.
Yes.
I say you hustle however you can to get some of those discounts, especially the movie theater, those hijack prices.
Absolutely right. That you do that and you bring your own candy in.
I'm waiting for
Without
the movie.
question.
You bring your own candy?
Are you kidding
you're
me?
That guy, really?
I've brought hot dogs into a movie theater.
I've done that. So
Yeah, okay.
I brought a few beers in the movie theater
Beers.
before. I mean, listen, you got to do what you got to do.
Subway sandwiches.
I've done that too.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm waiting for? Because the trend in sports has been in all these stadiums, you've brought down the prices of concessions in the stadiums to try and... I'm waiting for that trend to hit the movie theaters, man.
Yeah.
I'm tired of paying double-digit prices
All right.
for a bowl of popcorn.
Right there, right off the bat, at Golic and Wingo, what's the best thing you've ever brought into a movie theater? You've all done it. And don't sit there.
Let's not pretend like you haven't.
Don't now. Yeah, exactly right. You've all done it. What have you brought into a movie theater?
Chipotle bowl and a Coors Light.
Now,
have you?
Oh, yeah.
The bowl? The bowl?
The bowl.
No, I get like a sandwich. How did you bring the bowl in?
Pretty easily. Get a big hoodie, nice fluff. It's the winter time in South Bend.
Yeah,
I already look puffy. It's
The offensive line thing helped you there.
That's the
The
thing.
offensive line thing helped you there
A
massively.
little thick around the middle, so you're not really going to be able to distinguish the tinfoil bowl from
There you
anything
go.
else. The
Love
perfect
that.
crime.
Love that. So there you go. It's going to be on our at Golic and Wingo. What have you brought into the movie theater? That's
Golic
awesome.
and Wingo, we're here for you. Ways around all the rules.
How about it? And was it last night was like putting on the comfortable pair of shoes.
It was.
Monday Night Football, you
Yeah.
knew right around 8 o'clock, you start getting in that football vibe. It was awesome.
It was, and to the point
Yeah.
you brought up yesterday, Junior, I got in the car this morning and it said 59 degrees. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
it did.
all right.
Yeah, a little bite right there.
A little chill in the air. And then I thought, I still want my summer. But I'm happy that Monday Night Football is back. All right, let's get started with what's trending. And the AL West is what everybody's talking about, brought to you by Lowe's. Pros in the know start with Lowe's. Go to lowesforpros.com for details. And Robbie Cano announced his presence with authority.
And the 1-0 pitch on the way to Robbie. Swinging a drive into left center field. Kept to the warning track to the wall. Goodbye baseball. Robbie Cano with a 3-run home run into the Mariners bullpen. Holy smokes, and the Mariners take the lead. 7-4 over the Astros.
Holy smokes! At the call on ESPN 710 in Seattle as Robbie Cano hit that 3-run homer in the bottom of the 8th to lift Seattle to a big win over the Astros, 7-4. The Mariners' 5th straight win, Mike, over their division rival.
Yeah, Cano's first home run since returning from the PED suspension. So, again, Robinson Cano can help this team get to the playoffs and then take a seat because because of the suspension, he's not allowed to play into the postseason. As you mentioned, they've beaten Houston now 5 straight times. Houston has lost 8 of their last 10. Their bullpen with a 4.28 ERA in those games. This race is fantastic. We'll get to the third team involved in this in a minute. But Seattle got the number of Houston with 5 straight. Houston is going to get Jose Altuve back, it looks like today. So getting that type of a player back is going to help, but setting up for just a fantastic finish.
Yep, this will be what we wanted the AL East to be all the while, so we get to watch this one down the wire. But Altuve coming back, you can't overstate the importance there in something this razor thin down the edge.
You're kind of missing the fact that the Angels out there, basically the best player in Trout and Shohei Ohtani.
You remember how excited we were at the beginning of the season?
We had a drop ready to play all year, and we got to play it some. But
I mean, forgetting just the hype around him for a while, that was one of the 2 best teams in baseball we were talking about at the beginning of the season. I remember Buster Olney coming on with us and kind of getting us past the Shohei hype and realizing this was a great outfit, and now it's just talking about how underrated Mike Trout is.
Yeah, exactly. They're literally 500.
I think
63 and 63.
The last time we talked about them, it was their manager saying the information about
I'm not firing. Yes, I'm not firing myself.
It's poppycock.
Yeah.
The last discussion about the Angels was about poppycock.
And if you think about it, that sums up the Angels season
pretty much
perfectly. Yeah. It's been poppycock. By the way, you mentioned the AL East. You're sleeping on the big news there. The Red Sox lost, so the lead is only down to 9 games. It's down to 9.
The big news there is who did the Red Sox lose to?
Breaking news, Mike. Who did the Red Sox lose to?
The Cleveland Indians, the best team nobody's talking about.
They are 20 games over 500. And the Red Sox are 7,000 games over.
So what? So what? It all comes down to a series. That's all it comes down to.
Exactly right. And actually, I'll give you credit because in that game, I think the Red Sox were up 3-0 at one point.
Yeah, and the Indians hit, I think, 14 home runs.
And still
maybe
only
3,
the Indians only scored 5, which is really incredible. You know my theory.
It's my understanding that there would be no math.
Once you get past 7 home runs, they only count as a fourth of a run.
That makes all this. That is quick math. One more time.
Thank you. Oh, God.
Play the clock all you want,
big
boy.
It's been a while.
It doesn't matter.
The Indians are like 15 games up in their division
13.
Or something like
13,
that.
13, by the way, over Minnesota.
The stranglehold that the Red Sox
Cruise
have.
control, yet they play and beat the big teams. That's what my Cleveland Indians do.
Cleveland
Indians.
Are they the Leo Max as well? Or just
Cleveland Browns.
Shut up, Ray. That's old people.
All right.
Together.
Oh, yeah. We continue in baseball. The A's routed the Rangers 9-0 thanks to 4 home runs and 7 scoreless innings of 1 hit ball that included 8 strikeouts. Oakland is now pulled even with the Astros atop the AL West, but there was something else really, really cool that happened in this.
So the Make-A-Wish Foundation, there was a young man there, a 10-year-old Anthony Slocum, who was there, a 6th grader from Oakland, and he's in remission from a rare cancer. He attended the game with the group, and he ended up signing Chris Davis's jersey.
It's Chris Davis said, "Can I get an autograph?"
Yeah, and so he signs Chris Davis's jersey, and Chris Davis left the jersey on, the huge signature on his jersey, play with it, and hit a monster home run with that signed jersey on and said he was just thinking about the young man all the way around the bases. So pretty cool. Pretty cool moment there.
Yeah, I mean, when you can match that moment before the game with that kind of production, it always just resonates more. And you never go into a game planning on that. It's obviously such a difficult thing to, but when it works out like that, those are one of those moments you can't help but feel like, all right, there's something kind of a little bigger just working here.
Everything about it was really cool. Here's what Davis had to say. I thought about him around the bases. There's not a better feeling than hitting a home run, which, by the way, was 438 feet. So hopefully he got some excitement and joy from watching that. They're really the stars. He was excited. I could tell he was just happy to be here and wanted to have some fun. It was amazing, the look on his face. Just very cool.
Obviously, that's the best thing about that. From the game side of it, you have Houston and Oakland now in a flat-foot tie at 75 and 50, and they're the Mariners 3.5 back. So, as we said, we'll be talking about those 3 a whole lot as the season draws to a close.
Listen, it is going to go down to the wire, and I'm telling you, the Yankees are sweating out the idea that they may have to play the Astros
Houston in the wild card game.
In that one wild card game. Well, there's a lot to get to in college football, but this could be a big week at Ohio State. The Board of Trustees will meet Wednesday morning to discuss, in quotes, personnel matters related to the recently concluded investigation involving head football coach Urban Meyer. More specifically, what Urban Meyer knew and did not know about what happened with the allegations against former wide receiver coach Zach Smith and what he did with the information he may or may not have known.
So basically, yesterday, the investigators who were looking into this met with the board yesterday for about 3 hours and basically filled them in on everything. And then we'll hear more about it, or as much as they want us to hear about it, a Wednesday when they have their meeting. Mike, I think out of all this, it's going to come down to everybody's waiting what's going to happen to Urban Meyer. I think there's going to be a suspension. I don't think he's going to lose his job. I think they'll end up being maybe a couple of game suspension. I think that's going to be the most that happens here, and then they're going to move on. As we get to the preseason rankings of them as a football team, they're sitting there at number 5, but from this situation, I think that's where this goes.
Yeah, reading the tea leaves, timing-wise, you're going to try and get it close. It's like the Friday news dump of football. As you get it close enough to the regular season where once football starts, people are going to put this aside because they really don't want to be bothered with any of the unsavory details. We're getting far enough away from the initial outrage about it to where Ohio State's going to be able to slip this in without a ton of blowback. And then if they go out there and win games, you're going to even double up on the amount people are willing to forget about in this situation, as we've had a bunch of other stuff dumped on top of it in the meantime. I just laugh because we're talking about this in here, and nothing's funny about this, but when you say several members of the several trustees and members of the 6-person investigative group, that includes 3 of the trustees on there. The farce that this was an independent investigation continues to baffle me.
And the most important part of this, we have to wait and see. Remember, Zach Smith is still going to have a court date, I think, down the road in September sometime about what went on with his ex-wife, the trespassing charge, but also all the things we had talked about that allegedly had gone on for years. And I think anybody staying up on this has read a little bit more about Zach Smith and some of the issues that he has had as well within the offices at Ohio State. So I know a lot of people will be focusing on the Urban Meyer part of this, but there certainly is still the other story, part of the story as well.
Well, and again, that's the thing to focus on, the issue of the allegations of domestic violence and what people knew and what they didn't know and whether or not they did. As Urban Meyer said on that fateful day at the Big Ten Media Day, when it happened at Florida, he kicked it upstairs and let the other people handle it. And then, of course, he said he wasn't aware of it, and then he changed that statement to saying, no, I did let everyone know, and including the athletic director. So we'll see. It's not just about Urban Meyer. It's also about the athletic director.
It absolutely is. The bottom line is all of this. I'm with you. I think Urban Meyer is going to end up with a job, and it is just curious because as we talk about all this and the legality of what didn't happen, Zach Smith still doesn't have a job right now coaching on this team. And that's always going to be an interesting element to this, is that whether we find out the range of innocence or guilt in all of this, this guy's not on your football team anymore, and the reason as to why is going to kind of be lost in all this, I'm sure.
Well, I'm sure that'll be a big part of the discussion when they come out of that meeting on Wednesday, and we'll see what happens when that happens tomorrow. And then we had the good stuff last night. Oh, yeah. Monday Night Football back on ESPN. Andrew Luck's first game at Lucas Oil Stadium in nearly 600 days. It came with decidedly mixed results.
Yeah, it definitely did. One of the issues, first and foremost, it's great to have Andrew Luck back throwing the ball.
Yep.
Now, unfortunately, still some of the issues that we've seen from him forcing passes like he did in the red zone, rolling right through just inexplicable. That's the thing about Andrew Luck. Every now and then he throws that pass like, what the hell did he just do? And that interception was one of those passes. The other thing, Mike, and this goes along to your position, still a little concerning, the pressure. Still got pressured on, I think, over half his throws. You look at the 5 years that he's played, he's like the 3rd most pressured quarterback, I think 2nd most in the pocket. Now, there's been an ever-changing offensive line, and they pick up the best lineman in the draft in Quentin Nelson. They get Ryan Kelly back, the center from Bama, who's gone through some injuries as well, and you hope to solidify that. But I think out of his 15 passes, pressured on 7 of them, so that's still something they're going to have to clean up.
And this is a Baltimore defense that we're used to being a pretty consistent product. Terrell Suggs, the ageless wonder, getting home to Andrew. Although it helps, Anthony Costanzo, starting left tackle, was out last night.
Exactly.
Braden Smith, you had a rookie who played guard in college, kicking out to tackle at the right tackle spot. So the edges are still something that needs shoring up there, and I think will look a little better come the start of the season, but it was absolutely an issue last night. And so I think if we know that that's still, at least in the early portion of the season, going to be something where maybe we see some leakage, do we see a better version of the Andrew Luck that's going to take a little bit better care of himself? Because that was the other part of this. Towards the end of the Andrew Luck, the healthy Andrew Luck cycle, we had started to kind of sour on him. We said this is a guy that makes a few too many mistakes that are inexcusable. This is a guy that puts himself in harm's way a little more often than he needs to. And so now, how quickly will we get back and maybe see a change in that part?
Well, yeah, that's a great point, because back to the 2014 season when the game against the Broncos in Indianapolis, where Luck he punctured I can't remember, was it?
It's like didn't he have like a lacerated kidney or a lacerated spleen?
It was on a run that he didn't need to take and a hit he didn't need. I mean, he was trying to go downfield and barrel down there and make a play, and it was just, to that point, as much as they've had problems on the offensive line, and they have been well documented, that was a hit that he put himself in harm's way where he didn't have to take, and that's going to be part of this. So, the entire game was sloppy. From the offensive standpoint, specifically from the starting unit for the Colts. I think Luck was in there for 5 series, and he went 6 of 13, 50 yards. The interception in the red zone, which was really bad. They didn't have much of a running game. And then you mentioned Terrell Suggs. That was the moment when he got home to Andrew Luck, and everyone was holding their collective breath. And the worst thing, according to Andrew Luck, might have been the best thing.
Sort of happy to have been sacked by, Suggs and a legit, sack. I was like, I landed on my right elbow. It's sort of reminiscent of how I injured my shoulder a couple years ago, and I didn't feel anything, didn't give it a second thought. So I think that's actually a big deal for me, and being able to sort of lose that thought bubble, if you will.
Is that not peak Andrew Luck? Is that not peak Andrew Luck soundbite right
How great is it to have that soundbites again?
We've come back to the beginning, because when you think about the persona of Andrew Luck, I think it was all really built off. Remember when he was wired for sound?
Good hit.
And he got,
good hit, man.
Great hit, sizzle. That moment when Andrew Luck said sizzle in his goofy voice, that was when he arrived on the scene.
It's awesome. Now, this is the NFL today, and Terrell Suggs was thrown out of the game for sacking Andrew Luck. That's just something we have to live with. No, he wasn't. I'm just kidding.
I thought the same thing when it happened.
Seriously, you're not telling me when he was tackled for them, you weren't waiting that split second to wait to see the flag? Because we saw a flag in that game on, was it Danico Autry?
Yeah.
That I had to rerun twice just to find out where the hell he was in the play and what he did. And then what he did does not deserve a flag, and thought, oh my God, it's still going on. So don't act crazy when I was surprised Terrell Suggs didn't get a flag for touching the quarterback.
You know what is interesting, though, just as you joke there, but I was thinking about this the other day, the one thing we haven't seen yet, when the real panic switch gets hit, the refs have the ability to throw a guy out.
Yes,
we have not. In all the instances we've seen, I'm really surprised we haven't seen that yet, because getting that out of the way now, you guys had Mike Pereira on yesterday, and he talked about the tendency to overflag in the preseason. You'd figured they'd want to get a moment like that out of the way now, because if you have the first ejection in the regular season when something's on the line, you are going to have DEFCON 5.
And again, to that point, we had Mike Pereira, Fox NFL rules analyst, as also the former VP of officiating in the NFL, on the show yesterday, and he alluded to the point that a lot of people have made. Look, in the preseason, you're going to get more flags until we try and figure out exactly what we're looking for and what everybody can be dealing with.
I think that we're overreacting a little bit, because, and I've said this a couple times in the preseason, I used to tell officials, all right, we're going to make a point of this point of emphasis. So we're going to throw, and we're going to have a lot of penalties, and we're going to take the criticism. But once the regular season starts, we're going to back off a bit. And people used to ask me, do you officiate differently in the preseason than you do in the regular season? And I would lie and say no, when in reality, we always try to make a point of something.
I thought that was one of the greatest things he said yesterday. I mean, it's always easier to say that when you're away and outside the system. But look, we all know it and we all see it. And I do think there will be an adjustment once the regular season starts, specifically with this rule.
Well, we know the dialogue already with teams has been confusing. When the officials were here, Mike, you were in that meeting with a bunch of players, former players like yourself, who were all still. You walked out of that meeting. You guys still confused as to what the deal was? Al Riveron was here trying to explain it all?
Yeah, he was. I was less confused. I think it was less confusion and more frustration because defensive players feel helpless, and that's what a lot of the defensive backs, the former defensive backs in our room, felt there.
So, and according to our own Chris Mortensen, the NFL is having daily dialogue about the application of this rule. They're assembling an updated video teaching tape that's going to be distributed to game officials, coaches, players, and hopefully us as well. So we can all continue to try and be educated on this. They have a conference call set up for tomorrow to discuss this because that's what we're all waiting for at this point, right? We're all clinging to the hope. They can't do this in the regular season. They can't be throwing flags the way they're throwing them right now. We're all hoping that, aren't we? Aren't we all? We're all clinging to that, praying to God that they don't do this in the regular season.
Well, let's be honest about it. They're having a daily dialogue because everybody in America is having a daily dialogue about the exact same thing.
And that's good, right?
Yes.
Like, think about what we've already seen in the preseason. From the Hall of Fame game on, when we first started seeing these called, they already changed the way it's called. Like you heard in that game, we weren't sure coming in the next game day how many of them were the helmet penalties. And so they changed the verbiage. So now it's lowering the helmet to initiate contact. There was already a distinct adjustment. The worst thing the NFL did was in the rollout of this back in the spring, when they basically said there's going to be a helmet rule, they're going to be flagged, and they gave us nothing else. They gave us crickets. And so we were all a little bit agitated by that, players included. What's going to this is my prediction. Just like with the speed of the game with players, what do we always say with rookies coming in? When you get to the regular season, speed kicks up a little bit, right? There's an adjustment period for these guys. And then the game slows down. We've got officials that are rookies when it comes to calling this right now. The speed of the game is going to tick up. I guarantee the first couple weeks are going to look kind of ugly, and then it's going to slow down, and they're going to get used to the way this is called, what they're able to see when and how, the mechanics of all this, and I think it gets better from there on out. I would look at that quarter season mark the way we do kind of with offensive line play in the NFL now. Quarter way through the year usually gets a little bit better.
I hope so. Listen, they're throwing a lot of flags now, and I'm not saying this as a former defensive player, but the situation of not throwing flags on the running backs who are lowering their heads consistently.
Yes.
They're still not throwing. We've gotten a few flags on some of the running backs, more for blocking, quite honestly, than I've seen them running. I saw a couple of running backs block, and they would call it. But as far as running, when they get in the open field, they're dropping the heads. They're throwing a flag like crazy, but they're not throwing it on that.
Right.
If you're going to throw it on that some, because you're trying to have a teaching moment of saying we don't want this anymore, but you're not dissuading running backs from doing that at all.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because remember a few years ago that was going to be a foul in the league, and then that went away.
Quietly.
Very, very quickly.
Yeah.
To your point, Junior, about they rolled this out in the spring, and we didn't hear anything. It wasn't the only thing they tried to roll out in the spring, and suddenly it needs to be revised because they're going through that as well.
Yeah,
so we'll see how that all changes up.
Golic
and Wingo.
and Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You can get in touch with us through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Golic and Wingo, or call in 860-506-5505. And among the things we're asking on the Twitter feed and at our call-in line, what's the weirdest thing you've ever snuck into a movie theater? And I don't mean like a dog. I mean, we mean like food or beverage.
Yeah.
Is what we're going for. And I don't know how did we get down this rabbit hole off the start of the show?
I don't know. I forgot the first hour of the show already.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I treat it like a test in college. Once I get the information on the paper, it's gone forever.
It's like the draft for me. I know everything going in and then out the other ear.
And thanks for this, Mr. Flippo, who tweets in, the best thing I snuck into a theater was a brunette. Theaters don't allow snacks.
Ooh.
Oh, really? Hey, thanks for that.
Yeah.
We're talking about sneaking in things, and you're letting us know theaters don't allow you to sneak in snacks.
I tried to walk into a theater one time, and they told me they didn't allow snacks in.
Yeah, that's the entire premise of what we're talking about, Mr.
I just thought I'd help out Mr. Flippo
there. It was over everybody's head.
We just decided to move on from that one. So we're getting some great tweets on that, and we've already got a decent voicemail on it.
Yeah, the best thing I ever brought into a movie theater was there used to be McDonald's right next to the movie theater. And I go in and bring like McDonald's burgers and French fries. It was great.
It was great.
It was great.
Burger's an easy thing to bring in, right?
Yeah, you got pockets for a burger.
We're getting
creativity.
We're getting things that people are bringing in that you actually need like silverware for.
Pocket dog.
Yeah.
How about if
someone with a pocket dog?
Pocket dog.
How about like a charcuterie board? You get
a what?
A charcuterie board.
Charcuterie board.
Yeah,
the meats, the cheeses.
The meats, the cheeses.
All right, okay.
If you could sneak in the board and serve it on the board, that's next level.
That's impressive.
That's next level.
The word charcuterie, like throwing my dad for
Zero.
a loop, is the most on-brand thing. Honestly, that was endearing, and I love you more
no
for that.
clue what charcuterie is.
It was because I heard you on the way in using the word vociferously today to perfection, and again I thought, your dad would have no idea how to use it.
I've used big words.
Okay.
Charcuterie, I have no clue what that is. Let's say a meat and cheese board.
Because that's what it's called.
A couple of nice smoked meats in there. You know?
I agree completely with that, but I wouldn't bring the charcuterie board in. Do you say charcuterie board, or do you say charcuterie that assumes that's the board?
I think usually shorthand just goes to charcuterie. Yeah.
You have a charcuterie, yeah. That's the way that goes.
So if you say you have a charcuterie, you mean is that a board with meats and cheeses on it, or just the board?
No, that's the full presentation.
The full presentation
on the board
is charcuterie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sneaking that into a movie theater would be
that would be next level, right?
Impressive. Yeah, it would.
That would be next level.
That would.
So this is what we want. We want next level on this show.
Yeah, but in all honesty, we'd like the truth as well.
Yes.
I mean, let's not just make up things. If you make it up, make it up really good.
If you want to go out today and send us a picture of the thing that you snuck into the movie theater,
that would be
we
awesome.
would be against that. We're not telling you to break the law.
No.
Is it like you're not stealing? You're just not buying there.
Yes, exactly. You're just choosing a different option. All right, we have an update on charcuterie. It's a store where pork's products as hams and sausages and pâtés are sold. So the name charcuterie really refers to that. So I guess you'd have to.
So you guys are using it incorrectly.
Well, no, I think we
No,
said,
you were using it incorrectly.
Hold on. We said charcuterie board, and then you asked us if it can be just charcuterie, and that's where we messed up. Yes. I think it has to be called a charcuterie board, is what we figured out. And again,
I don't know where charcuterie belongs in this at all.
This is where, I don't know where the whole sneak things in a movie theater belongs in a sports radio show, but we went there.
We are not telling you to sneak things in.
But we're not telling you not to.
For some reason, if you do and you get a picture of it and send it to us,
that would be awesome.
Good things may happen.
Make it like a full ham or something cool, too.
Something.
A full ham. Now we're going down the road of Dan Aykroyd in Trading Places where he brings the salmon through the Santa suit.
Oh, yeah.
And
now
we're talking.
Hair, and if you get arrested,
hair all over that.
If you get arrested, take pictures.
Phil, for crying out loud, Trading Places is a classic. It's from your town of Philadelphia. That is a fine. Get out of here with that.
Did you call him Phil?
Yeah,
too? The movie's from 1983.
Yeah,
Phil.
I did. I called him Phil.
Well, just come out with Doc Clippers.
Doc Clippers?
Phil.
Who the hell is Phil?
Cut that one.
I don't know. Why'd you call him Phil?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Do you have a Phil in your life you're really angry with?
I just had an out-of-body experience.
Phil is the last person that brought him a charcuterie board.
And I saw Trading Places with.
You know what's great is we get the natural end to when we know we need to move on.
Yeah,
and
Phil is what we just did.
And you know what? That was it in every way, shape, and form. So we move on. Go to what's trending. Does anyone know who Phil is? Monday Night Football on ESPN. Andrew Luck's first game back at Lucas Oil in nearly 600 days. Mixed results. He went 0 for 3 with a red zone interception in his first two series before settling down on a 12-play, 48-yard scoring drive. He finished 6 of 13 for 50 yards and the red zone pick. He took a couple of sacks, one of which he liked.
Yeah. He was actually glad he got hit because he landed on his right elbow. He said something he did when he hurt his shoulder, so he was happy about that. Still a little shaky here. Bad red zone interception, forcing the ball, something we had talked about him doing while he was going through his injuries. O-line, little leaky, but left tackle not there out of this
Anthony
game.
Costanzo out. T.Y. Hilton also out of the game, too.
Right.
So the marquee weapon on that offense.
Though I will say, in our little Draft Kings thing that we do every Sunday, Jack Doyle is going to be a staple on my offense. This dude is going to get a lot of balls thrown to him from Andrew Luck, no doubt about it. But a step in the process for Andrew Luck. We're just happy to have him back on the field throwing the football. Now we need to hone in a bit.
It's not like the offense has put him in the position or asked him to make a lot of those deep out throws that everyone wants to see, which, as we've talked about with the amount of injuries in these preseasons, is probably smart. Like, why put the goods on display any sooner than you need to?
Yeah. And the one thing that was on display last night was the ability for Andrew Luck to bounce back from a sack. He got a big hit from Terrell Suggs and talked about it afterwards in a joyous manner.
Sort of happy to have been sacked by, Suggs and a legit, sack. I was like, I landed on my right elbow. It's sort of reminiscent of how I injured my shoulder a couple years ago, and I didn't feel anything, didn't give it a second thought. So I think that's actually a big deal for me, and being able to sort of lose that thought bubble, if you will.
God, I love him.
How do you get mad at that guy when he makes, like, even when he threw the interception in the red zone, he got done and he was smiling and you could see him gosh darning himself over there and patting his teammates on the back.
I'm not going to lie, though. I didn't hear a lot of that because when you said, why would you put your goods on display, I thought of my single years.
The pettiest show in America.
Oh, I got the bad joke horn, but that one gets to skate.
Mm-hmm.
No, I
thank you. Hit them all.
By the way,
we are horrific.
We are terrible. I mixed up manner and fashion.
You did.
I came up with Fanner, so I called you out for something.
You're called
similar.
Cliff Phil, so we're.
By the way, also not playing last night, Phil.
No,
Phil did not play.
Did not play.
One other thing, by the way, Andrew Luck was trying to build some confidence, and Confidence Theme is brought to you by National Mortgage Lender Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. One thing we can say for sure. You still have confidence in Adam Vinatieri's leg.
Yes, you do.
57-yarder.
Absolutely right.
The ageless wonder.
It's got to be 50.
I think he's 47.
It's unbelievable what he is doing.
And I think he might be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Remember, there are only two pure kickers in the Hall of Fame, Jan Stenerud and Morton Anderson a couple years ago. I think he might be a first ballot
he's
guy.
going to be in. It's just a matter of when he gets in. And, if he doesn't get in on the first ballot, will he go and have his own ceremony?
Exactly. He'll turn 46 in December. So you're prematurely aging him to our level, but he's getting up there, but he'll be 46 in December. So he'll enter the season as a 45-year-old kicker who can still make a 57-yard field goal. We continue with what's trending, and this is an interesting comment from Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer. He says the new helmet rule will, quote, cost some people some jobs. Obviously, very critical of the league's new helmet rule, calling it hard to figure out. And then he added on, it's going to cost some people some jobs. Playoffs, jobs, the whole bit, I'm guessing.
Well, listen, we continue to wait to see what happens in the regular season, but it's going to cost jobs. It's going to cost people money. There's going to be fines that are going out for this, possibly suspensions as well, which is going to not get you paid as well. I think like him and like players are all kind of very interested on where this is going to go. It is still so much up in the air. And as we talked about earlier, we are clinging to the hope that, well, it's just preseason. They're going to throw a lot of flags and we'll get this thing all ironed out in the regular season. And I just don't know how true that's going to be.
If you're talking about the trickle-down effect of defenders being unsure about when and how they can hit and giving up extra yards and all that stuff, I'm with you. But if he's worried about what everyone's worried about, penalty in a big moment or something like that, I'm just glad we're deconstructing the myth that you can't win or lose a football game on one play. It's a relief to know that all the time we were being lied to about that. If we're that worried about this one instance, all of a sudden being the difference in not just a game, but nay, a season, a job, a career.
Well, listen, we already had Mike Pereira come clean when he was saying, we don't call the preseason games any different than we do the regular season. He admitted to that was the case. So we're learning a lot about the machinations of the NFL over the last
Did you go nay?
Nay. Oh, yeah, I threw a nay. I hope the dripping sarcasm there was
it was there.
Mike Zimmer, by the way, defensive head coach, who I'm sure is looking at this from that perspective and saying, man, the guys on the side of the ball that I'm really accustomed to, that I've been working with, are really putting a bind in all this.
And you can't be mad at him for saying nay. You went advertisement once. You went full British on that. So you went
advertisement.
Yeah. So maybe it's something in the Golic family stream that has us doing that. So, help us save us from ourselves. And then there's this, lather, rinse, repeat. Alabama and Clemson ranked 1-2 in the preseason AP poll. Until now, since the preseason AP poll started in 1950, only Oklahoma from 1985 to 1987, in the glory years of Barry Switzer, had started number one in 3 straight years.
Big in the top 3 for the 9th straight season, longest streak in the history of the preseason poll. Florida State was ranked in the top 3, 8 straight years, 11 straight season. Alabama has been number 1 at any point in the season. That the previous record was 7 seasons by Miami from 86 to 92. Listen, you could just number after number for Alabama. But you sit there and you look at the top 25 as far as the top 10. The Big Ten has 3 members, number 4, Wisconsin, number 5, Ohio State, number 10, Penn State. The SEC has 3, number 1, Bama, number 3, Georgia, number, 9, Auburn. ACC has a couple, number 2, Clemson, number 8, Miami. So you see where it's dominated by. You get 1 in the Pac-12 with Washington, 1 in the Big 12 with Oklahoma, but no surprise who's at the top.
We expected this. The thing that's going to be interesting to watch now is Ohio State. Obviously down at
number
5. A
right.
lot of people factor what's going on, the investigation with Urban Meyer, everything that's transpired in that situation, you know what's going to lead to? A lot of Wisconsin slander. Wisconsin at number 4 right now. A lot of people looking at that. I'll say this, because I heard a lot on College Football Live the other day about how the Big Ten's got a bunch of teams. When you look at Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, that could all potentially be teams that make a push this year. Wisconsin, to me, looks like the second best team in the Big Ten behind Ohio State. Like, this is going to be Alexander Hornibrook's not a sexy name at quarterback.
Right.
That's going to be the best offensive line in college football.
Usually
a
is.
Heisman candidate running back behind him, better receiver core than expected, and one of the better linebacking cores in the country. Like, the other side is still the remnants of that Dave Aranda defense from years ago.
Right.
Great linebacking. Like, they're rock solid. I don't know why. I understand maybe overrated a little bit, but save me all this Wisconsin slander that's going to come from this.
And I tell you what, I can't wait. Now, this is week 0 we have in college football, but then next week, when we get going, and you always talk about how college teams play the soft schedule in the beginning, like preseason games times. The first week, September 1st and 2nd, you have 4 ranked games. 6 Washington against 9 Auburn, 14 Michigan, 12 Notre Dame, 8 Miami, 25 LSU, and 20 Virginia Tech, 19 Florida State. So you get it right out of the gate, which is fantastic.
Certainly do. And again, like you said, it all starts this weekend. Okay, Golic and Wingo presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever. Well, one of the most interesting things that came out of the NBA's regular season over the 2017-2018 campaign was the number of stars in the NBA that came forward and said, yeah, I've dealt with depression, I've dealt with anxiety, I've dealt with mental health issues, and it has affected how I've played. DeMar DeRozan, then of the Raptors, now with the Spurs, was the first one to sort of open up publicly about that. And then Kevin Love wrote a very long piece in the Players Tribune about his dealings with depression and anxiety. And in light of that, he sat down with our Jackie McMullen for an extensive interview that you can read on ESPN.com. And it all started for Kevin when he had a massive panic attack right before a game.
I just remember not quite feeling right. I remember we went through a few plays. There was a timeout. I got to the huddle, and that's when I felt something that I had never felt before. I couldn't catch my breath. I felt like my mind was completely out. And Ty Lue had said something to me. I told him I'll be right back. I ran in the locker room. I was essentially searching for something that I couldn't find. I didn't know this feeling. And then I just basically ran to our trainer's room, fell on the ground, collapsed, and my heart was jumping out of my chest, and I couldn't get air to my lungs, and essentially was trying to clear my throat, sticking my hand down my throat, trying to get myself air. Yeah, so it was.
Must have been terrified.
It was terrifying. I thought I was having a heart attack. I really felt like I was going to die in this moment. I'm getting hot thinking about it. It was a moment that nobody wants to have, but it was very eye-opening. And then going to the hospital after that, everything checked out, and I was basically thinking to myself, well, what happened?
And he's not alone in this piece. He's not alone in this piece that Jackie McMullen did. Several other players have talked about their issues and the struggles that they've had, including Paul Pierce.
There are steps that we go along the way for professional sports, for professional athletes, especially the men's side of it. There is this testosterone, this tough guy image where you can never look weak. You can never look like you need help. You always have to kind of eat that and fake it. And we all go through that. Very difficult for me to jump in on this situation. I have not experienced this. I've not been through this. And if guys had been through it when I played, they did what most guys did. They hid it. You didn't know it, or they dealt with it on their own. So to have it be able to come out, and DeMar DeRozan has talked about it, other players have talked about it, to be able to talk about it openly and not have to eat it and hide it is obviously a step in the right direction. And again, I can't, what he explained, I never went through. I mean, you have nerves when you play, but never went through something that deep. And people go through that, whether it's athletes, and that's what we talk about because we're a sports show, but people in everyday life as well. It's just something I can't relate to, but I'm happy people are able to openly talk about it and get over that, that I'm a tough guy. Everything I have to do has to be tough. I have to act this way instead of being able to open up and say, you know what? I have an issue here that I need to deal with. And if, by the way, if this can help somebody else come out and be able to deal with this as well, great.
I always wonder, because Brian Dawkins, speaking as openly as he did about his depression and his thoughts of suicide, in his Hall of Fame speech, though, after the fact, I wonder if you are going to get someone like this to come out from the ranks while they're playing in football. Because I just think of the differences. Like the NBA in general as a community, there's a lot more open dialogue about a lot of things. It's just the way that it's been structured and the way the league's trended lately. But with the players, there's also not the threat of physical retribution. Because that's the other part of this is if you display what's perceived as any weakness, you go into a sport in football where there's a physical toll and all of a sudden you've got that to worry about in the back end. I wonder in a sport where it's ratcheted up even that much more if you're how much tougher the barrier to entry is. Not saying this wasn't difficult for Kevin Love, but it's just it still feels like such a different environment to me. You hope that was my biggest hope watching Brian Dawkins on the football side is you had one of the toughest guys we could ever think
without
of
question
in that league, a guy who was literally a weapon X on the field. Coming out and admitting these things, I was like, man, let that be that moment. The way Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan have been on the NBA side and for sports in general, God, let him be that for football.
Well, it's interesting that you brought that up, and there's a really good point about what you're talking about that we've seen this summer. It's one of the viral videos that came out of preseason when Washington and the Jets were having that joint practices together before their first preseason game. There was a play where Terrell Pryor dropped a ball, and he was going back, and they were yammering back and forth, and then DJ Swearinger, the safety for Washington, came in and jumped in his face, and Pryor flinched, and everyone was screaming, "Oh, look at him, he flinched." That's exactly what you're talking about in football, that mentality right there.
Yeah, it's that mentality, but we also have to kind of make the careful delineation because that we look at and we go, man, you flinch in that moment. There's a difference between that and then also saying, I've got this crippling anxiety when I'm off the field, but I understand that gets clouded really quickly with everybody because the label's soft, and that was something that Kevin Love talked about is you get that lobbed at you, and Dad, that's the nerve that always hits with athletes, and it's overcoming, all right, you can call me soft or call someone soft if they do what Terrell Pryor did, and we can all kind of laugh about it because it's inconsequential.
Right.
But when you throw that at someone who's dealing with something like Kevin Love, who might have something on the outside, all of a sudden we now understand, all right, that's gotten old and that's gotten tired.
Yeah, to your point, if someone in the NFL who is playing, like you said, had an interview like that and said that, and then to your point again, how would it be when they walk down the field? Would that be used against them? Would somebody talk smack to them about that? I would imagine that's where you're going in this, and how would it be dealt with on a football field where there is a lot of trash. So there's a lot of trash talking in the NBA, but you're right, it's a different animal as far as how you go about your business on the field.
Listen, there's no question about that, and actually the idea of the word soft, Kevin actually addressed that as well, basically saying, listen, we need to get past that.
It's such a tired statement. I've put my time in this league. Guys put their time in this league. To be in the NBA, you're not soft. And to come forward with this, it's, like I said, that's tired, it's outdated, and it actually, in the end, is probably, for me, it was the best thing I did, and it's only going to help you moving forward. And it doesn't just mean basketball players or anywhere in sports. This is an everyone and every human thing.
It's really an eye-opening article. And, Chris Bosh talks about some of his issues that he's had. Paul Pierce's relate back to, obviously, he was stabbed, and he had these anxiety attacks about going out of the house. And it's in all sports. We had Marty Fish, former tennis player, on with us earlier, opening up about that as well. So it's really, I would suggest you read it. And we'll see what happens going forward if more people feel comfortable talking about this.
And I agree about the soft tag in the professional sports. If you made it that far, come on. Let's get over that. Where it can get worrisome is it used against you if you say something in college, in high school? Where is that line? In the pro sports, I agree with Kevin Love. That is such an overused term.
And more guys are secure in who they are. Yeah. When you're a college and high school kid, there's a lot of insecurity. You're still developing your sense of identity. And so if you don't have people around you that can be careful and understanding with that, that's an easy place where this all of a sudden becomes something that's used against you. So having people like Kevin Love and Brian Dawkins and DeMar DeRozan trickle that effect down, that's invaluable. That's why this matters.
And again, you can read the entire article on ESPN.com. It is well worth your time.
Golic.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
And Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
When it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need help getting to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. And when you need to hire fast, accelerate your results with sponsored jobs. New users can try for free at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
We all thought going into the preseason, or maybe after week one, that the most likely candidate to keep the streak going of at least one rookie quarterback starting week one in the NFL, which has gone on a decade now, 10 straight years, would be a team in the New York area. And that would be Sam Darnold of the New York Jets. Although I listened on the way in, some people are angry that they consider the New York Jets who play at the Meadowlands to be part of the New York City. They're the New York Jets, okay? They're not called the New Jersey Jets. Maybe they should be. They're the New York Jets, so we lay claim to them like that, as the city does as well. However, it looks like there's the possibility that we could have two rookie quarterbacks starting week one, because the Bills have named Josh Allen as their starting quarterback for week three. And as we all know, guys, week three of the preseason is the final dress rehearsal for the first unit. ESPN's Chris Mortensen saying, hey, this is a real possibility.
Allen had one of his best practices yesterday. That follows up two good preseason games. Panthers defensive tackle Quan Short said he was a steal in the draft. Bills defensive end Shaq Lawson, who played at Clemson, said he compared him to Deshaun Watson as an elite athlete. And this is a guy with a strong arm who is now making his mark on the Bills. Will start week three preseason against the Bengals on Sunday.
Listen, this has been said from the beginning that it was a three-way quarterback competition. A.J. McCarron got the first start, Nathan Peterman got the second start, and now Josh Allen will get the third start. Now, again, we talk about the third preseason game as the dress rehearsal, but that doesn't mean that Josh Allen will be in there with the ones the whole time, but he'll start the game and do give a fair shot. Now, you can also do it in practice behind the one line and with the first-string offense. But to give a fair shot, if you are going to have a true quarterback competition in preseason games, you have to let each quarterback be behind the number one line and with the number one offense, in my opinion. You have to see what they can do against the other team that has their number one defense on the field, where things are even a little bit faster than when the second and third stringers are in there. So to give a fair assessment, Josh Allen gets that start in the three-way competition, gets to play with the starters to see where he can go. Right now, Josh Allen, I think personally, like all the quarterbacks that we've seen, had done a pretty good job. I think, as I said yesterday, going into the college season, we raved about them. Halfway through it, we said, wow, they all have issues. And right now, I think they're all playing pretty darn well. Lamar Jackson certainly struggling from the pocket, no doubt about that. But I think that the rest of the guys, they're doing a nice job out there. You kind of see what we're talking about from college transferring to the pros. None of them is like, oh my God, surefire starter, this guy's a rookie all-pro. By no means are we saying that. So, and Josh Allen kind of fits that mold. Strong arm, that's exactly what we lived by and bought into, but inaccuracy, which is exactly what we saw in college. But I think, and I'm happy he's getting a shot with the ones to see where that goes.
You earn more reps. That's what training camp's about. Every good performance just earns you the right to go out there and prove with a larger sample size that you're worth consideration for this job. And so to get that in the third preseason game, and the point you made is I think the most pressing is, for sure you're going to get a long shot of that first defense that you're going against on the other side. This is the longest stretch that starters will get in the preseason before everyone dials it back. And for Josh Allen to do it now, for this to be the culmination of all those other performances, because week one, he was the laughingstock.
Yeah.
He was the highlight that we showed when we wanted to make fun of what we had seen from rookie quarterbacks. If you had asked me going into this preseason, I would have guessed that we would have been much closer to seeing Lamar Jackson pushing for that job, being involved in the mix in Baltimore based on what we had heard going in, their desire to get him on the field, as opposed to where we are now, where Josh Allen in the last couple of weeks has looked a lot better, has looked more competent, especially when you've got that week one falling down pass as the backdrop.
Well, look, there is some context that needs to be put into this discussion, because one of the reasons that there's been a shuffle at quarterback is because A.J. McCarron got hurt in the last preseason game that they played. There was a concern that he had a hairline fracture of his collarbone, but according to Adam Schefter, he avoided that fracture and is expected back to practice soon, a source telling Adam. McCarron had sought a second opinion after Friday's game when he suffered the injury. So the idea of shuffling these quarterbacks, that might have been a part of it, because AJ was it looked like AJ was going to be the starter going forward. Now that he may be able to be back at practice, that's something that has to be looked at through this vortex a little bit differently. And the other thing we got to throw out there, remember, we were all over what happened last year in Jacksonville. Chad Henne was named the starter for the Week 3 preseason game for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Blake Bortles ended up being the starter.
Yeah.
So are we reading too much into this, that it's going to be that we think it's going to be a Josh Allen, or there's some other mitigating circumstances that may make this a little extra out of the ordinary?
I don't know if he's going to be the week one starter here, especially if McCarron's injury isn't as serious as we thought, because they were talking about possibly bringing in another quarterback. But if it's not a fracture and he's going to be back soon, they probably wouldn't do that. And I flip-flopped him. It was Peterman who started the first preseason, McCarron the second, and now Josh Allen the third game. So I don't know if I'm going down that road, but it is interesting how with all these first-round picks, especially with Josh Allen, we're all like, whoa, let's just give it a little bit of time.
Whoa.
Give it a little time.
You're telling me.
We do this all the time. Let these guys grow into the position a little bit. Give them time. Now we're not even talking about if one quarterback will be starting out of this group. It's how many could be starting. The only one it seems outside of injury we know will not be starting is Baker Mayfield. Tyrod Taylor has been given second, third, fourth, pats on the back saying he's the guy. He's the starter. We're not messing with that right now. Sam Bradford looks to be the starter out in Arizona. That looks to be somewhat in stone, but certainly they're not. Wilkes isn't saying it. It doesn't seem like Hugh Jackson is saying it
ironclad
in Cleveland. Yeah. And we know what's going on, obviously, with the Jets, and now we see this going on with the Bills, and also there's no chance of Lamar Jackson starting for the Baltimore Ravens. But if they're, quite honestly, would you put more stock in multiple first-round draft quarterback starting week one, or none starting?
Multiple.
Yeah,
easily.
Multiple. I would as well.
If I would as choice, well. Yeah. But you're right to the sense that there are a couple of things that are around the Josh Allen situation that may not lead it to believe what it normally looks like. And you're saying pump the brakes a little bit on him? So is Mel Kiper.
Josh Allen shouldn't be playing right away. It's a recipe for disaster. He's a rookie. He's going to be forced there with a very subpar supporting cast. And it's a mistake to start Josh Allen against Baltimore in week one. That would be a huge mistake. I don't care what anybody says about his. We know he's got more talent than Peterman and McCarron. They knew that going in. He's got more talent, but he's not ready. Peterman should start opening week against Baltimore. If he doesn't, it's a mistake.
We don't know. Peterman got talent. We got talent in McCarron and Peterman. We got talent. It's a mistake, says Mel Kiper Jr.
Yeah, that was before this last weekend, though, where it started to look a little better. And this is the same thing we've talked about.
I think that was after the weekend.
I
thought it was after.
I thought it was before, but I'm not sure. Either way, I look at this guy and I say, all right, the barrier, and that's what we've talked about with Darnold too, is the quarterback behind him, the guy that's been there, has to be that much better if you're going to stave off a rookie on a team you know is going to be bad. Jets are going to be a bad football team, more likely than not, or an average football team, we'll say that. The Bills are going to be a bad football team. There is very little about that roster that inspires hope or confidence coming off a season last year where they miraculously made that playoff run with the help of the Cincinnati Bengals. So putting A.J. McCarron out there, if he's marginally better than Josh Allen, if it's just a little bit, what does that really benefit you?
Agreed.
If you've got a kid that all of a sudden looks poised, Lorenzo Alexander, a lot of these veteran players with praise, they don't need to be throwing out there. You don't need to heap praise. I'm sure it helps the confidence, but you don't need to pump his tires to the level where we look at him and all of a sudden say, maybe this can happen.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. Again, remember, Chad Henne, week 3 preseason last year, started for the Jags, and we were like, that's the end of Blake Bortles.
That was like a punishment because Blake Bortles was playing terrible up until that
See,
point.
that's the thing. The first thing you need to decide from these first year guys is, are they not deer in headlights?
Right.
Can they process what's going on? And they've all, I would say, passed that test and processed what's going on.
Yeah. So look, we'll see what happens going forward. And if Josh Allen shows out, don't be surprised if we have 2 New York area teams starting rookie quarterbacks week 1.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold.
It's very interesting where that went.
Sister Mary Jo Sobiek, a nun at Marian Catholic High School in Chicago, who played both volleyball and softball in college at St. Scholastica in Minnesota, but she threw out the ceremonial first pitch for the White Sox, and it was a strike from the rubber, and I'm calling it a sinker. I think she threw a sinker. There's no doubt about it. So we are delighted to be joined now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line by Sister Mary Jo, the Marian Catholic High School theology teacher, and one heck of a pitcher. Sister Mary Jo, thanks for being with us. It sure didn't look like you had any nerves going up to the mound there as you did the bicep bounce with the baseball before you threw it, and then you drilled a strike.
Well, fellas, I wanted to be confident enough and yet nervous enough to be on my game. As athletes, I think you understand that, right?
Absolutely.
Without question. So you do tell us about your athletic background, and one of the reasons you were picked to do this is because of your athletic background. So fill us in on that.
Well, I think my God-given gift, I know my God-given gift and ability has been my athletic prowess. That's definitely, God has coordinated me with all of that. And so I started playing organized sports when I was in 5th grade. Our neighborhood had what was called the Parochial Athletic Association. So all the Catholic schools in the area would play each other. And so I started playing in 5th grade, volleyball, basketball, and softball, and I just continued that through high school and college. So that's really when it started.
Well, listen, now I'm saying that you threw a sinker because that was what I saw. I thought you threw a sinker that just dropped down perfectly into the strike zone over the plate. Was that your intent?
I want to say yes, but no, it was not my intent. I just wanted to throw hard and get it in the zone. And I think after throwing so many over the years, I must have something on it. I can't tell you how I did it, though.
Sister Mary Jo joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Lines from Marian Catholic, located in south suburbs of Chicago Heights, celebrating their 60th anniversary. That's why they were at the Sox game, and Sister Mary Jo throwing out the first pitch. Was there talk at all that you would have to throw it not from the mound, but in the front of the mound? And if so, did you say, not happening, I'm throwing from the mound?
I asked. I said, can we throw from the mound? And he said, oh, yeah, they give you the option. You can throw from the grass. You can throw from the mound. And I said, okay. So then I knew right then, because absolutely, Golic, you're right. As an athlete, you got to be all in. I was not going to get ribbed by my teammates and coaches from the past that I had this one opportunity to be on the hill, and I didn't take it. I don't know what I'd do if I missed that opportunity. So absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. The moxie of Sister Mary Jo. By the way, her performance was fantastic, and she joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. So, Sister Mary Jo, congratulations. You have done something that Mike Golic was not able to do.
Yeah.
He went out there and threw a first pitch, and Sister Mary Jo, he bounced it. He didn't have the arm strength that you had.
And I understand he's a graduate of Notre Dame, and so I'm surprised that the Blessed Mother couldn't intercede for him.
I think the Blessed Mother covered her eyes when I threw that pitch, sister. It was not pretty. The mound got me. The step off the mound got me and lowered my throw. It was my own fault. I got booed, and I should have got booed. I deserved to get booed. And while you obviously got cheered, you also tell us about the whole scenario. You now are going to have a bobblehead.
I know. It's actually hilarious. I want to get back to the throw, and I tried to keep it fluid. That's why I did that whole bicep bump, because I couldn't just throw from the jump. I think when you just throw it from the mound, it's awkward. So I had to be in motion somehow. So that's why I did that. And the whole bobblehead thing, it's just it's a real blessing. I mean, it's it's fun. It's a fun experience, but more than my love for sport, I hope my joy for the gospel and my love for God also gets out there too. And sports has just been a real venue for me to relate to the kids and help them live their passion and be their best and let God do the rest. So, I mean, that's really what it's all about. So it's been a wonderful opportunity.
Well, if it wasn't the pitch alone, the bicep bump definitely will help you relate to the kids. There's no question about that. Sister Mary Jo, the question I have, what is it about sporting nuns in Chicago? We had Sister Jean from Loyola of Chicago that helped them. She was the fuel for their fire to the run, and now you're out there dealing on the mound.
You know, I don't know if it's about the sporting nuns or just the nuns in general. We just have a love for life and a joy and an enthusiasm for things that are put in our path, and we want to live it fully. And when given those opportunities, we're going to allow that to work through us and bring people to some enthusiasm and joy with us. So she certainly loves sports too, and so am I. And we're not in competition at all. I want to make that very clear. We are collaborators for a bigger mission, but it's been a real fun.
And listen, you have become an instant celebrity with this. You're on Good Morning America. I'm sure you've had done other interviews as well. So because of all that, have there been other offers to do other things or more first pitches? What's on the agenda going forward?
Well, you know, that's interesting you asked that, Golic, because I'm also, my National League team is the St. Louis Cardinals. And I live in Chicago, but I'm from central Minnesota, so my loyalties are with the Twins. And I feel like I'm straddling heaven and earth or heaven and hell with the whole Chicago White Sox Twins thing, right?
Right.
And the guy that caught my pitch was the starting pitcher for the White Sox against the Twins last night. So I don't even know and he did win. So I don't know if he's getting credit or I'm getting credit for that. But I did talk to KMOX in St. Louis, and they know I love the Cardinals, so they too have invited me down and said we might need a ceremonial pitch from me, so that would be wonderful. I could wear my Cardinal jersey.
That's
How
awesome.
about that? The Mighty Mox, KMOX, having you on there in St. Louis.
That's great.
Listen, I have the feeling that will not be the last time
Yes.
you make a first pitch after what you were able to do. Listen, it's been a lot of fun. It's been very cool to see the reaction everybody's had to you. It's been a lot of fun having you on the show this morning. Sister Mary Jo, keep dealing strikes, okay? Keep dealing.
Thanks a lot. I have one more sinker to deliver today here on Fox News. Someone's in the dunk tank.
There you go. All right. Yeah. Go, Sister Mary Jo.
Thanks, sister.
All right,
Take
sister.
care.
Best of luck. God bless you, too. Thanks so much. You too.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm as happy as a clam.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will be, quote, as happy as a clam, unquote. The Geico legal team cannot accurately verify clams even experience the complex human emotional state known as happiness. As an invertebrate mollusk living half submerged on the ocean floor, with no arms, legs, or wireless access, what's there to be happy about? A clam's all like, oh, I'm so happy I didn't get turned into New England clam chowder today. Pronounced regionally as chowder. Chowder. Oh, that's so fun to say. What were we talking about again?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We are delighted to be joined on Golic and Wingo by Big Al, who hits dingers from the Middletown Little League in New Jersey. Big Al, good morning. Thanks for being with us. How are you?
Good morning.
Not too early for you this morning?
It is kind of early, but it's all right.
There you go.
I appreciate that. I'm glad you got up for us. So, before we really jump into this, Big Al, and you say you hit dingers. How many dingers have you actually hit in your Little League career? Do you know?
12.
12.
That's very impressive. What do you like most about hitting the long ball?
The bat flip.
You like the bat flip, huh? Do you have a preferred bat flip, or does it come natural? Is there something you've worked on?
No, it kind of comes natural. When I swing, it goes over the fence. I kind of like toss the bat towards the fence, like towards the dugout.
How about the trot, Al? How about the trot around the bases? Do you like to really kind of move around the bases, or do you like to take your time and admire your shot?
I like to take my time and admire my shot.
There you go. Big Al with us this morning. Alfred Big Al D'Elia, Little League World Series legend, is already here. Now, listen, when you did that player intro, Al, did you have any idea that so many people were going to find that so interesting?
No, I had no idea.
And what has been your reaction to everybody's reaction to you?
I don't know. Really, just shocked.
What's been the coolest thing, or a couple of the coolest things you've gotten to do because of this?
Meeting the MLB players.
Yeah, that had to be a lot of fun. Do you have a favorite MLB player?
Yes.
Who is it?
Giancarlo Stanton.
Giancarlo Stanton.
That's a good one because he hits dingers as well.
He hits
that
big
certainly
time
works.
dingers.
How did it go with the Mets in the batting cage?
I didn't really see them in the batting cage.
Are you gonna do a batting cage with them?
Yes, possibly.
Possibly.
Okay.
But now I got to ask, as Big Al is with us, Little League World Series legend from Middletown, New Jersey, if Giancarlo Stanton is your favorite player, does that mean you're a Yankees fan?
Yes, I am a Yankees fan.
All right, so are you concerned that the Red Sox are running away with this division? Are you a little worried about maybe a one-game playoff in the postseason?
Yeah, a little bit. I think they could do it, though, especially because if they could get the wild card, then they'll be good.
They'll be good?
So, Al, if you like the Yankees, do you really hate the Red Sox?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to play in Major League Baseball one day?
Yes.
If you did, and it was the Boston Red Sox who drafted you, how would you feel about that?
Oh, I wouldn't care. I'd be in the Major League.
That's
There
what
you
I'm
go.
talking about.
That is the right answer.
That's a nice job out of you. Also, Al, what other sports, if any other sports, do you play?
Basketball.
Okay.
But baseball is your favorite sport?
Yeah.
What do you love most about baseball besides hitting dingers, Al?
I get to pitch.
You get to pitch?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, what position do you play in basketball?
Shooting guard.
Shooting guard. So so in your intro in basketball, would it be I'm Big Al and I drop buckets? Would that be what it would be? Nicely done.
That's pretty good.
Listen, I don't know if you know this, but you have one thing that's in common with my co-host, Mike Golic here. We were listening to your interview you did with Adnan Virk, and he asked you about your summer reading, and you said you're not going to do any summer reading, just comic books. Just so you know, you can still be successful and only read comics books because that's all Mike Golic reads.
Good job out of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So no summer reading for you?
Well, I got to start it soon.
When does school start for you?
September 6th.
Okay. Do you have to write a paper?
No.
Oh, you just have to read a few books?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
How many books do you have to read between now and September 6th?
2.
2.
Well, that's not bad. You can do that.
Have you figured out?
I could definitely do that.
Yeah. Have you figured out what books are going to be yet?
No.
No?
Not really.
I heard talk about if you're reading a book, that choice, or playing Fortnite. Where are you at on that?
Playing Fortnite.
There you go. Have you won at Fortnite?
I actually been playing Fortnite. I was playing it last night.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
Did you win last night?
No.
Yeah, it's a tough game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Big Al is with us, Little League World Series legend. Listen, Big Al, you've had a lot of sort of attention. You went on a couple of TV shows. You're on with us. You made that little video. What are you expecting the reaction to be like when you go to school on September 6th from your friends and your kids at school?
I feel like everybody's going to be asking for my autograph and pictures.
Well, were a lot of people asking for your autograph at the Little League World Series?
Yes, they were.
That's very cool.
That's great, Al. That's a nice job out of you. By the way, do you have a girlfriend that's been impressed with what's going on?
No, I do not have a girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's time.
There's plenty of time for that.
Don't worry about that. Well, listen, Big Al, it has been a lot of fun watching you and watching everybody's reaction to you. We appreciate you getting up this morning, and best of luck in continuing your Little League career, and we'll see what happens when you go back to school and how it all plays out.
Okay, thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome,
Big Al.
Thanks so much. Take care.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.